everybody doing today? Good to see you. Preacher couldn't make it, and at the last minute he called me to kind of fill in for him. Some of the last minute fill in there. But glad to see y'all out. He didn't put that on Facebook, did he? I know we ain't got a bigger crowd than we usually do. I figured he might have put that on there and everybody stayed away because I was going to be here or something. But anyway, that's all right. A lot of people sick. A lot of people got things going on. Before we get started, let me do these announcements before I forget them. The ladies need the table set up out in the building for the tea Sunday. So don't forget that if anybody can tonight. If we can't, we need to do it maybe tomorrow or something. We need to get those tables out for them. And we need the screen moved too. Tim, maybe you could help, maybe a man or somebody help move that screen in a little bit. It's going to be in their way. Is there any other announcements we need to make before we get started?
Sunday, don't forget about Sunday afternoon. We need some folks to be here about 2:30. We're going to load a few tables and stuff and go and get set up at the park.
Okay.
It'll start at 4 o'clock. We're going to eat at 5. So we're going to be able to have a good setup for that.
Okay, I don't just call that a picnic. Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Just be there if you can and come here early and get some things, get going with that.
It's not a lot set up. I think we're going to take about 5 tables and just like a dozen chairs or something. Hopefully everybody else brings one chair that everybody sit.
And any other announcements? So your ladies' tea is Saturday. Remember that, all that's participating in that, got things going. We got to get that going. Anything else?
Meet tomorrow night for the mission trip.
Okay.
What time is that? You remember the time?
6 or 6:30.
6:30? I don't remember the
6
time.
or 6:30. 6 or 6:30.
I don't know. How do you remember the time?
I wanted to 6 o'clock.
All right, so it's tomorrow night here.
Okay, remember the mission
Everybody
trip.
going on the mission trip.
Okay, the mission trip meeting will be tomorrow, and we'll check on time, 6:30, somewhere around there.
I have 6:30 written down.
6:30. Okay, 6:30.
6:30, all right?
Okay, 6:30. Any other announcements?
The youth are leaving Friday. They're going to Frankie's.
Okay, Frankie's Fun Park Friday with the youth. Anything else for us? Okay, got one.
Friday's trip, what time are they leaving? Friday.
You know what time we're leaving there, Stacy? I got a bulletin with me. I should have picked one up. But
They're leaving here at 6.
6 o'clock. Youth will be leaving at 6 o'clock for Frankie's Fun Park. Okay, and as I mentioned, we'll go over some prayer requests. The preacher's having trouble with the tooth. He's got an abscessed tooth. And before they can drill it out and do the root canal, he's got to get the infection down. I've been there, done that, so it's not no fun. Once it's talking about no fun. Once you get the infection down, it quits hurting. They drill that thing out and it goes hurting again. So it's just a vicious circle, seems like that. And Freddie's doing good. I talked to Patsy and said his surgery went well and he's out of the hospital, everything. So he's doing all right, but he'll be kind of on the walker for a little while until he gets his legs straight back out. And the last I heard about Vaughn, she was going to the heart doctor to see what they could do for her heart. Anybody heard about Vaughn Harris?
I thought she was going to have surgery Monday.
That's what I thought. Okay, what you got?
She went to the doctor. They didn't do anything. She's got to go back and see that because a little bit more to do than they thought.
Okay, so let me mention old Rick Swindow. He used to go here and ride the motorcycle and everything. He's in bad shape. He had a gallbladder attack, and they found out that the gallstone went into his valve duct to his liver and got stuck. So they tried to go through his throat with a wire like a heart cath and get the stone out of his valve duct, and that didn't work. said he's going to take his gallbladder out and try to get the stone out of his bile duct. And that, they're going to take his gallbladder out. Well, they done his gallbladder orthoscopically, and they couldn't get the stone out of his bile duct. So they had to open him up to do that. And they cut his intestines, so he had to pull his intestines out and fix them. And then he had to try to get the stone out of the bile duct. He sent me a picture of his stomach like he's in a knife fight and lost. He is cut all over his stomach. So I remember him especially, and I was kidding him. I said, you know, when Preacher Jake was down here, I took him to the hospital. They diagnosed it, pulled his gallbladder out, and he's back home in 24 hours. But I said, apparently, an old man like you takes longer than that. So he's 70-something, 4 years old. But anyway, remember him because he's got a long recovery. They said he's doing good now. He's got a long recovery, though. I had my eye surgery yesterday. He said I ain't got no glasses on. And it's doing pretty good. So I can see. Remember Glenda, she's not feeling good tonight. A little while, I guess he's back home, and he started to get wild now.
No, yeah? Setback.
He ain't wild yet? Huh?
He kind of had a setback yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, they had to take him to the emergency room yesterday evening, and he was having some details in his nerves.
He got some fluid built up around his right lung,
Oh.
so it was causing him to get a little short of breath, and he was just out of it just a moment. They put him on some more medicine, a diuretic basis. He's feeling a little better today. They're going to keep him on there for several days.
I seen him Sunday. I said, he's fixing to put this thing in high gear. You know, he's moving around, getting around pretty good there. But yeah, remember Wiley's got a little setback. And I remember the Hawkins family, Kathy and her family, and I remember them. They had the funeral this past week and everything. Has anybody else got a prayer request or anything? Wayne?
Let's remember Shelley Phillips. I think she's here tonight.
Harold just
She
got
has a
here.
problem on Monday. Hopefully she's doing okay.
How's Shelley doing, Harold?
How's she?
She's doing all right. She's got to quit stressing out.
And also, a friend of mine, David Reese, he's been up and down there. He was up and now he's down. He's having some other problems. I was talking to him a while ago. He looks awful weak, but don't know exactly what the problem is.
Okay, remember it's David Reese. David Reese. Okay, anybody else like Bobby?
I got two. Eddie's going to have surgery again on his leg. He broke back in December. It's giving him a lot of problems. They're going to re-operate it and put the rod on the inside of the bone instead of the outside. He's having a lot of problems with it. And I was talking to a good friend of mine a while ago, Mike Carroll. He's bumped one of his, I think it's on his right foot, his toe, next to his big toe. I was over there, it was 2 or 3 weeks before we went to Charleston, and he showed me a picture of it, and it's not getting well. And he said he's going to have an MRI Friday. He said they might have to put a port in him to put some antibiotics in the treatment. He said it'd probably be about a 6-week thing, you know. So just remember Mike Carroll.
Okay. Anybody else?
Bobby Hogan. Bobby had a problem with his right knee.
Okay.
They put a stocking on him and there's some exercise to do to try to avoid surgery.
Good. Remember Bobby back there. Anything else?
Howard is back. We gotta get him healed up for time to go on a research trip. So
Well, you gotta get him healed to make that hash too.
that's right.
And stir in that big pot.
We got 2 big events coming up. We need Howard.
Yeah, true.
Put your steering wheel in.
Anybody else before we go with the Lord in prayer?
Tomorrow I'm having oral surgery.
Yeah, just surgery tomorrow.
Yes.
And what was it you want?
I had oral surgery. I fractured 2 poplars.
Okay.
They can't grab it the normal way, so they cut my gum and pull it out.
Okay, let's remember this. Well, Robert, you lead us in prayer at this time.
Father, we praise your name.
all the blessings that you give us. Father, for these whose names have been called out tonight, Lord, we ask that you touch them and heal them according to thy need. Be with Terry as he speaks to us tonight, Lord. Just give him the word that you have him to say. And thank you for all you do for us. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Preacher been preaching out of the book of James, and I thought I'd give you a break on the book of James tonight, because I know I don't know as good as the preacher does. I know he'll be talking about it. But I heard a fellow one time said that he felt sorry for James. He said that he felt sorry for James, and I said, why is that? And he said, because he was the brother of Jesus. And I'm like, why is that? And he said, well, every time James would get in trouble, his mama would say, why can't you be more like Jesus? You know, and that could be something to live up to there if your brother is like that. But, you know, James might have been a little rebel there. And, you know, his mother was Mary, and Mother Mary, you know, you've heard of her. And anyway, she might tell him, said, where's your WWJD bracelet at? He said, I took it off. I ain't wearing it no more. He said, I'm going to get me one made. It's got WWSD on it. That kind of word his mama with that S on there. So she asked him, what does that S stand for? He said, Simon. She said, who is Simon? You know, Simon, the fisherman out here. He's a bad dude, you know. He's got his own fishing boat and his own fishing business, and he carries him a sword with him. Anybody gives him any trouble, he'll pull that sword out on him, you know. I'm going to get me a bracelet that says WWSD. I want to be like Simon. And Jesus said, what'd you say his name was? He said, Simon. He said, I'm going to remember that. So we know Jesus remembered Simon. He was one of his first disciples out there. But anyway, like I say, we think we got problems sometimes, but you know, James had a few problems. But James turned out to be a pretty good fellow, I guess. He wrote a book in the Bible there, and we studied it and lived by it and all, or hope we live by it. What I was going to talk to you about tonight was a couple of miracles in the Bible. The first one is in 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 14. I'd have to read one verse, and I want to ask you to stand up. But 2 Kings 5:14, it says, then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh came again into the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. And boy, I can read pretty good, can't I? Got my eyes fixed. That's amazing. You get you something like that. I couldn't see nothing I ain't see. You ever been like that? Spiritually, maybe you were blind spiritually, but now you can see. I hope everybody here is saved tonight, and their spiritual eyes are open. But Naaman, y'all know the story. People on Wednesday night, y'all probably know more than I do, but anyway, you know that you've heard the story of Naaman. He had leprosy, and he was from another country, and he was told that there's a fellow in Israel who could help that leprosy. So he said, well, we'll go see him. So he got an entourage together, and you know, Naaman was a captain of the military, and he was a wealthy man. He had servants, and but he was a leper. That brought him down to earth. You know what I'm saying? You know, he was an important man. He was a wealthy man, whatever. He's a man with control over people, but yet he had leprosy. And that kind of brought him down to maybe my level, you know. I've had a lot wrong with me in the past, and I know everybody else has too, probably. But, you know, sickness and death and all this is equalizer on this earth. I don't care how much money you got, how much power you got. When you get sick, you know, you get sick. And that's just the way it is. So he decided to go to the king of Israel. He went to Joram, and the king couldn't help him. He said, man, I don't know nothing about this stuff. You know, I can't help you. You know, a lot of times we go to the wrong people to ask for help. But Elijah, the prophet, heard about all this, and he said he got word to Naaman to come see him. And when Naaman got to Elijah didn't even come outside and talk to him. He just stayed outside. He didn't invite him in the house or nothing. He just sent word to Naaman and said, look here, all you got to do is go dip in the Jordan River 7 times. You'll be all right. And, you know, Naaman didn't like it. You know, you ain't even coming out here and talking to me. You tell me to go dip in that muddy river, Jordan. So we got better rivers back where I come from. I want to go dip in the river or something, you know. I remember when we were little, I lived down in Drakeville, and there was a place, a creek down there. And on Sunday, everybody go to that creek, it'd be full. And you get out in that river, and it was clear, or Little Oak Creek. But you get, you know, it was muddy on the sides and things. You get mud in your toes and all. We had a good time, you know. But Naaman thought he was being slighted or something, you know. He didn't want to go to the Jordan. And he felt like Elijah wasn't showing him any respect, and he deserved respect, he thought. And, you know, the River Jordan wasn't like a big mud hole to him. He didn't care too much for the River Jordan. But one of his servants talked him into it. And he decided to go on and give it a shot. And, you know, I was reading some commentary one time, you know, it doesn't say anything about this in the Bible, but the commentary I read, and the guy was supposed to know things about the time all this was happening. And he said the real reason behind this is when Naaman went to the river, he would have to take his clothes off, take his uniform off, take his armor off. And he speculated nobody had really seen how bad his leprosy was. And he was embarrassed about this. His pride was hurting is what it was. And probably the only person that ever really seen how bad his leprosy was the one servant that stayed with him about all the time, that got his clothes out for him and got his food together and all that. And he was kind of hiding his problem from everybody else. And like I say, his pride was getting to him. And can you imagine when Naaman started taking his armor off and he took off his gloves, and all those people that with him seen his fingers and they were about to rotten off, or they were just swole up, or fixing to bust, or had pus or blood running out of them and stuff. And that's the way leprosy does you. It's just a flesh-eating disease. And I imagine when he pulled his first glove off, you know, he just started getting embarrassed, and then he took his helmet off, and probably sores in his head or something, and his breastplate, his shoes, sandals, whatever. He took those off, and all those sores were being seen by everybody. And he was ashamed because of the way he looked. You know, if you're sick, you can't help how you look. You know, if you're in the hospital or something, you're not the best. You're not the best dressed person laying there in the bed in one of them gowns at the hospital. You don't want people to see you up there. You just look your worst, you know, when you're at the hospital, seeming like. But anyway, he had an image to protect, he thought, and he had to. He didn't want to lose people's respect just because of the way he looked, and you know, and like I say, once he got all that off, he wasn't a captain anymore. He wasn't a rich man anymore. He was just another leper. He was a leper that's supposed to say, "Hey, I'm a leper. Stay away from me. Unclean, unclean." He put himself out there to these other folks. You know the story when a leper came. A leper's supposed to holler, "Unclean, unclean, don't get near me. You might get this leprosy on you or something. You might catch this disease." So, you know, now he was one of those people. Brought him down to a level he'd never been before. You know, like, stay back, you know, get away from me. I'm unclean or whatever. And that's kind of like us, you know, when we kind of try to hide our sin. You can't hide it from God. You can put on all the clothes you want to, the fancy clothes, or whatever you want to do. Sometimes you can't hide your infirmities from God. And that's another lesson we can learn from Naaman. But like I say, Naaman goes ahead and gets in the Jordan River. He feels that mud between his toes. You know, he said, "Man, it's the muddiest river I've ever been in my life." He got that mud squishing up in his feet and all. And you ever got in the river, and probably Howard's been in one that's muddy, and you get down and the mud kind of stays on you, you know what I'm saying? Once you get out of the river, you got to wash the mud off of it. And I imagine that was sticking to him and all, but I imagine Naaman said, "Well, here we go. We're going to shut his eyes," and he dipped down in that water, and he come up and looked around, and he said, "Well, you know, still there, you know." They go down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, same thing. He dips down and comes back up, and still that leprosy is on his body. So he said, "Well, it's the 7th time." That's what the man said, 7 times. We're going to see how it works. So he comes up the 7th time, and I think he, got his eyes shut, and he might say, "Well, here we go, Lord." He might crack one eye open and maybe look at this finger over there, and he said, "Man, that finger's about rotted off. It looks pretty good now. And he looked at the rest of his hands. He opens that other eye and said, man, look pretty good, you know. His skin's back like it ought to be, like it always was before he had the leprosy. And, you know, I believe he come out of that muddy water shouting, you know. And like the man said, you dip 7 times, you'll come up clean as a child. And that's what happened. And over in John chapter 9, verse 7, let's see if I can see that one. And he said unto him, go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way, therefore, and washed and came seeing. So this is a man born blind by his birth. He went and washed in the pool of Siloam. He didn't go to the River Jordan. He went to another pool to do his washing. And, you know, Jesus healed this man who's born blind. And he did it in a different way than like Elijah did. And, you know, he spit on the ground. He made some mud packs, a little old mud, and put it on his eyes and stuff. And he told him to go wash in the pool of Siloam, and he'd be all right, and he could see again. And, you know, I often wonder why Jesus did all this. You know, Jesus could have healed him like that. You know, in Mark 10, it talks about blind Bartimaeus. He said he just spoke the word, and Bartimaeus was seeing, you know. And Jesus got his purposes, he got his reasons, and we got to understand those reasons sometimes. But this man didn't hesitate. He didn't fuss or nothing like Naaman did. No, Naaman, he stopped complaining about the muddy River Jordan, but this man that's born blind, he didn't complain at all. He said, man, I want to see. And Jesus spit on him, basically. Anybody spit on you, you know, what you going to do? You probably going to end up in a fight with him, probably. But Jesus made spit and stuck it all over his face and his eyes and made that clay stay on him. And he said, go and wash in the pool of Siloam. And he could have said, you know, hey, don't be spitting on me or nothing. I'm a blind man. Don't make fun of me. And he said, go wash in the pool. I'm a blind man. I don't know how to get to the pool of Siloam. You tell me. And he didn't say this. He wanted to see. So he took off, tried his best to get there. And I think that everyone he run into, he asked him, said, you know, help me get there or something like if this is the road down through here going to the pool of Siloam, and somebody got you started on it, and he bumped into Wayne there, and he said, hey, buddy, tell me, pool of Siloam, I got to get there. And Wayne says, here, buddy, there's right here, and keep going straight, and he gets down through, and he runs into old Robert right there, and he says, help me, buddy, get me down there, you know, get me to the pool of Siloam, got to go. Jesus said if I wash, I could see. Then he keeps on going and runs into Harold over there, and Harold helps him get on his track, and he gets up there. And he finally gets to the pool of Siloam, you know, and he just dives in. He don't, you know, the pool's here it is, you know, somebody, and he just dives into clothes and all, and starts wash that mud off of him, and he opens his eyes, and he can see. And man, he's excited, so he wants to come back and see Jesus. He wants to see the man that told him what to do and he'd be healed. And so when on his way back, on his way there, he's probably stumbling and falling and everything else, but on his way back, he was walking upright. He didn't run into anything, didn't have any kind of problems like that. And, you know, like everybody on the way back, let's say this was the crowd that seen him going yonder way, and he run into several people and everything, but he was making such a racket and hollering and carrying on that everybody noticed him. So on the way back, they wondered, said, hey, wasn't that guy that was blind come through here a while ago? Now he can see pretty good. He's walking straight. He's not following everybody. He's not asking everybody, how do I get here, get there? He's stopping and asking directions. And he looks like he's doing pretty good. He said, you know, when he come by the first time, he had that mud on his face. He's come by now, he's soaking wet, but the mud's gone. He's not tripping over everything. He's getting where he's going. And like I say, I think when he got to the pool, he just jumped in and did the washing and got on with it. He was ready to get back to see. He wasn't wasting no time. He wasn't going to argue with anybody or whatever. But I wonder, you know, I often wonder why Jesus didn't heal him immediately. And I think it's because this man was on a journey. He was on a journey for Jesus. And his journey started out when he was born. He was born blind, and that was part of his journey. Think about our journey. Where have you been in your life? What journey have you been on for Jesus? I know you might say, well, I was born here and done this, raised here, and I done this, was on the farm, whatever. I got me a job here, got married. But think about the journey you have for Jesus in your life. What have you done for him? Which direction has he put you in? What path has he put you on? It'd been bad if you'd been born blind and that was the path that Jesus put you on, but sometimes that happens. But this man's journey wasn't over yet. So when he met Jesus, Jesus had just a few more minutes for this journey to take place and succeed in what Jesus wanted to do. So that's why he told him to take a few minutes and go to that pool of Siloam, and he'd get his eyesight, because he wanted these people to see. He wanted people to make sure that they knew something was going on, a miracle had happened. And like I say, as he went going, everybody watched him. They seen him hollering, probably screaming, whatever, and noticing this blind man on the way back, they noticed him again. And someone probably said, hey, that's the guy that used to sit up there all day long and beg for money, or beg for food, or beg for clothes, or something. And they say, I never give him nothing. I ain't got nothing. I ain't gonna help nobody. He's born blind. I can see. I don't care about him. So they, didn't care too much. But the other people that saw him and said, yeah, I know that guy. He was a guy sitting up there every day blind. He couldn't see. And I give him a penny or two here and there. I bring him something to eat. I bring him an old coat or something. And now he can see. And that was the people there saying, your prayers was answered. I stopped and prayed for you. I didn't have no money, but I prayed for him. And I prayed for him, and now he's better. So see, our prayers and our gifts and things aren't in vain. When you pass by Jesus, you shouldn't give up. It's going out over there. Man. Let me tell you something. I can't even get this out. Glenda's about to give up. She can't take it any longer. I don't know what to do. I don't know if she's looking at this or not, but she's ready to give up. She said, I can't live like this any longer. She came to the funeral today, and you asked Janet. She met her at the door. She was barely going. And I don't know. Just pray for her. I hope that your prayers won't be in vain for her. But she is really weak right now. And I just pray for her. But, I wonder why. Some people have leprosy. You look in the Bible, why do they have leprosy? Why are people blind? Why do people have cancer? Why do people have heart attacks? You wonder why this one or that one, We say, well, you look around the church and you see Glenda's got cancer and this lady over here don't. Why? This guy over here's got heart attack, heart trouble. Somebody else don't, You wonder why. It's not that God's not even with everybody, treating everybody right, but you ever looked out in the woods, especially pine trees and stuff in the wintertime? If you look out there and there's a bunch of pine trees out there and there's one tree out there that fell over and dead, and you say, why is that? That one tree out of all them trees. I was going up the interstate one day and it was in the wintertime, and you could see these trees and the trees looked pretty good, and all of a sudden there'd be one fell over. And you go down the road and then nothing fell over, just out there by itself in the middle of the trees. And you figure that the tree right beside it and the one beside it's all been in the same sunshine They've been in the same cold, the heat, the wind, the rain. They're planted in the same dirt, and yet this one's fell over. And I asked the Lord about this, about people. Why is this fellow having a hard time? Why does my wife have cancer? And he let me know, you're not supposed to know. So I don't know. I don't know why people, some get along pretty good, other people have problems. It's up to God what happens. You know, some people can bring things on themselves, but like I say, I just don't know. If I knew, I'd be God, I guess. And I'm way away from being God. Because the older I get, the less I know. The less I want to know, really. I don't want to know why a lot of times, unless it's God trying to get in touch with me and saying, I'm trying to get in touch, I'm trying to teach you something, I'm trying to show you something. There's no way out of your situation except trusting in God. You can't buy your way out. You can't do anything but trust in God. And that's the only thing that's going to see you through. And, you know, Jesus answered this question. You know, when the people ask him, why is this man born blind? He said in verse 3 of chapter 9, he says, that the works of God should be made manifest in him. In other words, it's to magnify the power of Jesus Christ. He was the only one on this earth that could heal that man of his blindness. Was the Lord himself through Jesus Christ on that day. And to let you know, like it says in the Bible, this is truly the Son of God. If we can grab a hold of that, maybe our problems won't be so small or big, it'll be smaller if we put it in God's hands. I thought about Glenda and all, but I thought about little old Wiley. Y'all know Easton. 6'4", 240. Big and strong as a bear and all. And, you know, what if something happened to him even now? You know, he could get a disease, have a car wreck or anything. It would kill me. It would devastate Glenda. I mean, that's her boy there. But thinking about little Wiley, I hate to say I'm glad I'm not Wiley's grandparents or parents. You know, I'm glad it's not me. I hate to say that, but that's the truth. It's in my heart. I can't fool God. When I pray for Glenda, I'll be honest with you, I can't pray God's will. I said, I want her healthy, Lord. There's no use to me trying to fool God. Say, well, God, if it's your will for Glenda to get better, get her. I mean, I would be a hypocrite to go before the Lord and pray that prayer. That bothers me a little bit, because I know we're supposed to pray God's will. But God knows my heart. There's no use me lying to God. So, I don't know, sickness comes, sickness goes. And I was up there getting my eyes fixed, and I was telling about Harold going up there to get his fixed, and I said, you know, because he had his eyes fixed, he found out he had a heart problem. I said, if he hadn't had to have his eyes fixed, he wouldn't know about the heart problem. Ain't that something? Man up there getting his eyes fixed, well, you got heart trouble. And he's sitting here today because he went to get his eyes fixed. Did you ever get your eyes fixed, Harold? Did you ever get them worked on? Well, so you got one eye fixed. He ain't got the other eye fixed, but yet he's living today because he had a sickness. He had a problem with his eyes. You know, God's amazing, ain't he? You know, when I found out I had my heart attack, I chased that down for 2 or 3 years. one doctor says there's nothing wrong with you, and another says there is. And make a long story short, the heart doctor said, let me do a stress test on you. They didn't do it right. So he done a stress test, and I was probably here to that pew, and he was sitting there watching that stress test. And as soon as it was over, a grin come on his face. He said, Mr. Parris, ain't a thing wrong with you. Ain't a thing wrong with your heart. So I go back to the other doctor, and that doctor says, yeah, there is too. So they had a little conversation. And I go back to the heart doctor, and he's kind of mad. He said, looks like there's a disagreement about these tests. The only thing I know to do is give you a heart cath. So we did. He gave me the heart cath. And I was in there in the recovery room, and he come in and said, well, this is exact words. Mr. Parris, you ought to be dead right now, but you ain't. I'm like, 2 weeks ago, you said there's nothing wrong with me. He said, well, the test is that. He said, I'm like, yeah, but what you going to do? You going to do a stent? You going to do a bypass? He said, stent's not going to help you, and you won't live through a bypass. I said, what you going to do? He said, nothing. He said, what's happened? I said, your heart is got some little blood vessels that's just went around the blockage in your heart. And I said, well, I guess the good Lord bypassed it because y'all weren't going to do nothing. So I guess the good Lord put me some little blood vessels in there to keep me going. That's why I'm here today. The Lord bypassed my heart. You know, He didn't have to cut me open. So I'm glad of that. Sometimes you depend on the doctors. You know, Glenda went for a long time with hurting in her side, and they said it was in her head. And I've told probably all y'all, they sent her to a psychiatrist, said there's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. And the psychiatrist said, you hate your daddy. I swear it's what he said. I hate to say that from here. That's exactly what he said, just you hate your daddy. I said, he's been dead for 10 years. She's just now figuring that out. And I told him to his face, I said, you're crazy. You're crazy. I'll bring you 100 people down here today and they'll tell you she did not hate her daddy. Well, that's what I found. That's what and they started treating for depression and all this and got her so messed up. A couple of years later, she's eat up with cancer. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. You hate your daddy. I'm like, you know, I just wonder about things. But God's still in control. She's still here. God still can work a miracle in her life. He works a miracle in my life every day. You know, I could die any second because I ain't got much of a heart left up in there. I got one good artery. The rest of them stopped up. You know, who knows what's going to happen the next day? You know, Mr. Hawkins, you know, he was working on the farm. I asked him, I said, what do you do? So I work on the farm. I said, what do you do on the farm? You work on the farm? Yeah, I work on the tractor. I bush hog, I bale hay. If I have to tear into something on the tractor, I have to change the tire. You know, he's 70-something years old. Seemed like he's in pretty good health. Next thing you know, he'd be sitting right here, but he's dead. He died the other day. Just all of a sudden, you know. Next week you come in, well, Terry ain't here, he passed away. Who knows? I know my buddy Gary Womack, he used to play guitar down here with us. And he was playing his guitar one week. The next week his body was laying right here. You know, it could happen to anybody, anytime. So, but the bottom line is, are we going to keep on the journey for God to the last? You know, Glenda is an inspiration. A lot of people said that. She does come to church or whatever. And I appreciate them saying that to her, and that helps her out. People tell them I'm praying for you. Glad to see you here, different things. And that means a lot. People send her cards and little letters and things, and that helps a lot. And people, I'm not asking for anything, but, you know, some people have sent her stuff about going out to eat and all, and little cards about, you know, what you call them thing, gift cards and stuff, and that picture up. You know, you can do your part with anybody, anywhere, anytime. It's like the blind man that people kept passing by and saying, I ain't got nothing to do with him. You know, he's blind, I ain't blind. I got my own thing to do, and other people pray for him, give him stuff, do something, help him. Even though they couldn't change his blindness, they could change his situation he's in a little bit maybe. And that's what we should be as Christians. Like I say, it's not I know Howard likes that song, it's not an easy road. It ain't, is it? No, Howard's back's hurting, different things. And, I don't know, his life is rough. I heard a guy say that, or another guy complained, he was complaining about the a guy saying that we're going to a land of milk and honey. And he's saying, well, I'm lactose intolerant and I can't eat that sweet, it puts weight on me. You know, the land of milk and honey, I think if I get to the land of milk and honey, God's going to fix my lactose intolerance, and I can eat all I want, and I ain't going to gain no weight. You know, they're looking at things wrong. You know, God's in control, and God's going to take care of us one way or the other.